It's the only wrestling podcast on earth with one two-time X Division champion, the man behind the man at Impact Wrestling. He's my best friend and yours now. That's Petey Williams.
How's she going, eh?
This guy has been rocking the world. One of my favorite people of all time. I grew up listening to Rancid, and I am pleased to call him a friend, and I cannot wait until I like him better than Petey Williams. That's Lars Fredrickson.
How's it going, everyone?
Lars, I want you this week to introduce our guest.
Well, thanks, Dennis, because right now we've got one of my favorite wrestlers that's happening today. I love everything that he does, puts his body on the line. He falls down flights of stairs. He skateboards like he's 16 years old. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but if I could bottle his energy and sell it, I'd be richer than Petey Williams. So everybody give a warm welcome to my good friend, Mr. Darby Allin.
Howdy. What up, everybody?
Darby. So you're in your car driving around.
Yeah, I was doing a skate park tour today and just checking out all the spots down here in Winter Park, Florida, Apopka, and Orlando, wherever. So,
gotcha.
All right. I'm going to start the question now, guys. And Darby, you were just got done with your first run with a major wrestling championship on a major wrestling show. What have you learned from this first run as a champion?
Oh, man, I learned that given the opportunity, given that goddamn ball and running with it, that's all I ever wanted. Making the most out of it and making the title mean more by the end of the run. That's like the number one thing I learned. Is that you either do something with it or, it overshadows you. And I didn't want any of that shit to overshadow me. So I was just run with every opportunity, put my body on the line, getting thrown down flights of stairs, whatever the fuck it was.
That's awesome. Because, they usually say, and I'm sure you heard this saying a lot. It's like, sometimes the person that holds the title, they elevate that title. Sometimes the title elevates that person, right? So what I want to know is, they set you up. They said, you're going to be TNT champion. When did you know that you were going to get that belt? Was it like that day, or were they like, oh yeah, here's the storyline that's going to lead to it? Like, how did that all come about?
See, I don't really ask questions. So I didn't even know leading into it if I was going to win. And then someone's like, dude, you're winning. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just didn't want to, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the combination of just hearing people lie so much in life that you kind of take shit, you don't want to hear it until it's there. Mm-hmm. But I found out like that day and, I was hyped about it and I just wanted to make the most of that whole opportunity. But like I said, I don't really ask that much questions. I just run with whatever they give me.
And then on the other end, before Lars, on the other end, when you just recently dropped the title, was it the same thing? Like the day of, they're like, hey man, sorry, but you're dropping the title tonight.
No, that's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened with that now?
And I was hyped. Like I was hyped to go out when I did because I was having those string of main events and we were drawing good numbers when I was main eventing. And, it's like, I didn't want to overstay my welcome. Or like, what the fuck? When's this guy going to lose? Like, I didn't want to be that guy, like I don't have no ego when it comes to this. I was like, dude, I'm ready to roll out when I'm on top with it. So, it was good, dude. I really liked it.
Well, one of the things that I notice about you is you're very forward thinking, and especially in this business that I always felt was like 10 years behind the curve culturally, but I see you and what you're doing in AEW and I'm thinking to myself, okay, and I know this is going to be completely off what I just said, but when I watch you skateboard and it's like when you biff, you bump off your skateboard and then like kind of vice versa. So I'm wondering, like, learning how to wrestle, did that help you learn how to fall off a skateboard better?
No, it was the opposite. Learning how to skateboard made me how to bump better in the ring. I remember like the first day I was at wrestling school, my trainer was like, you know, like taking bumps and whatnot. And he was like looking at me like, yo, so how's it feel? Does it hurt? And I was like, no, man. I was like, I've been falling on concrete my whole damn life. And then at first he was a little offended by it, but then I would show him the videos and then he's like, holy shit, I can't argue with that. So just the years of falling on a skateboard, I feel like it's got my pain tolerance way up high. So I talked to Tony Hawk about it. I was like, dude, how can you be like 50 some just still raging on the skateboard? He's like, I just didn't stop. So the fact that like, I was like, I'm trying to intertwine that. I just don't stop. I have a wrestling ring downstairs in my house. So if I don't wrestle train, I'm skateboarding and vice versa, whatever other stunts I do. So I just never stop and my body feels great. So.
Well, one time, you know, I just want to piggyback on that because you mentioned, you know, Tony Hawk, and it's like we had him skateboarding in a video of ours, one of the Rancid videos one time, and he fell pretty hard, you know, big bruise down his leg. And we're like, hey, man, as we're filming, you want to take a break? And he goes, no, if I take a break right now, my body will just freeze up and I'll feel that bruise. You know what I mean? And I imagine it's somewhat the same for wrestlers. And I'm sure, Petey, maybe you can attest to this. But like, is that the case for you guys? Like I mean, you know, not wrestling as consistently, like on an every night basis, do you find that you're feeling those bumps and bruises a little bit more?
What do you think, Darby? I mean, I on my end, I mean, we just had a string, and you guys do a string of tapings too. It seems like you're kind of sore by the day, like 2, 3 or whatever. But then by the day, you know, day 4 rolls around or whatever, you're like, yeah, this ain't that bad. You know, I kind of, you know, sometimes like bumping like makes you feel better. Like you're like, oh, my shoulder hurts, but then you start taking some bumps, and the next day you're like, oh, my shoulder's better now. I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel.
No, I did. No, I definitely get it. I definitely get it. That's exactly how I go. It was like that cinematic match the last time Revolution, when we had with Sting, and I remember it's like, all right, action. You do this gnarly ass bump, and then it's like, okay, cut, and then you wait like 20, 30 minutes for the next thing, and I was like, man, this is crazy. So like that's why I was like, let's keep it going, man. Yeah. And it's just like, but yeah, I could totally, it sucks, but yeah. It was
Darby, this is the first time I met you, and with all due respect, and don't take this the wrong way, but fuck you for being able to live my dream of tag team with Sting. So I just got to tell you, the 14, 13-year-old me hates you so much that you come out every week with Sting. Did you grow up a wrestling fan? Is this like your geek out dream moment, or how was your fandom? What was your, I guess, relationship like before you met Sting, when you met Sting, and now that you've been working with him?
So I grew up a wrestling fan. It's just I never believed that it was possible growing up to actually do it. You know, like I tell people, I graduated high school at 120 pounds. And, you know, I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to be able to do this. So I was very, like, always in love with like what Sting was about and the whole cinematic approach that he would take, and, you know, just everything that he would do in the ring. But now that I know him and I'm like working with him, it's like, hey man, this is exactly where I need to be. It feels so natural. You know, we go on trips to LA to film some promos together, and it's just, it feels, you know, it's a killer time. You know, there's no more like, oh, there he is. It's just like, dude, just two guys just having an awesome time. So
hanging out. Awesome. So what made you, you know, obviously very successful in the skateboarding industry, very successful in the pro wrestling industry. What made you decide like, hey man, I said, I'm gonna, you know, do both, or I'm gonna, you know, become a pro wrestler now? Like what made you decide like, hey, that's what I'm gonna do?
I was at I always wanted to do professional wrestling. And I remember when I graduated high school, I went up to my dad and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And he's like, the fuck you are? Yeah. And then it's just like get real, man, like go to film school, do something. You and your jerk off friends always film stunts, so just do something. Yeah. I went to film school, and I remember it fondly. I was going to film school in Arizona, and then I went to this one random promotion. I don't even remember the name, but there was nobody of like name value on this independent show, and I was like, man, these guys suck. Like if I could do it, if they could do, if they're getting like people watching them, I was like, dude, I gotta give this a shot. So, you know, I had a falling out at film school. I dropped out, and then I went to go train in Seattle. And then yeah, like I don't know, man. I remember the first year I was training, I stopped skateboarding. I just thought like that's what professional wrestlers are supposed to do. Is there's like I didn't know, like there's just like a code. You have to like train. You can't let anything else get in the way. And then I felt so depressed. I was like, dude, I felt like I traded who I was as a human for what I thought people expect a wrestler is supposed to be. So then on out, I was like, yo, fuck everybody. I'm doing it my way, and I don't give a shit. And like, you know, that's why I picked up the skateboard, and I started getting crazy, and everything worked out just the way it was meant to be.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask, and we've been asking a lot of the guys who've been coming on and girls, is like, now you got this forbidden doors open, and you got, you know, these bigger promotions working with each other, and it seems like it's sort of working. And it's sort of changed the whole shape and the scope of professional wrestling. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's better for the business? I know you haven't been here for, you know, a couple decades, but you know, you still have had enough experience. What are you seeing?
Dude, I see anybody that wants to take it super serious and doesn't treat this like vacation or like buddies hanging out, like laughing. Like, I want to just treat this as a business. So if everybody has that aspect of growing the forbidden door, and it's not just like a bunch of dudes in a circle jerk, like I'm all down for it. So, you know, I really want people to like just really change the world of wrestling and not just like, you know, treat it like spring break. So whoever's serious, man, that's who I want to associate with.
You have this weird, actually refreshing outlook on the business, because I'm a fan who's been kind of let in via PD and doing this podcast. I've gotten to know a lot of guys that would normally give me the time of day. The wrestling business has this really weird old school code. Do you seem like a guy that backstage kind of thumbs his nose at it, just kind of does his own thing? And I don't know if I'd use the word standoffish, but are you kind of backstage when everybody's cliquish, just kind of do your own thing? What does Darby Allin is backstage, I guess, is the question I'm trying to ask.
You can't find me backstage because we've been in Daly's place now for the last year, and it sounds ridiculous, but I literally change in the boiler room by myself. I lock myself in there, and I just come up with storylines all day and working on promos and working on everything that I do outside of the ring, all the business deals and random stuff, clothing line. And I just feel way more productive not hearing people's gossip about stupid who slept with who and who's talking to who. I don't have time for that. I really it pisses me off. And I was like, so I really just feel super more productive when I'm by myself. But when it's time to go out there and put a match together or put a storyline together, I'll be like totally in your face, like super collabing and just talking. But otherwise, man, I really like to be left alone.
All right. So you like to be left alone, you know, kind of do your own thing and stuff. But so how'd you get started with AEW? Did Tony call you up, or QT Marshall, or did somebody call you up and be like, hey man, or did they find you? Did you find them? How did that transition happen?
Cody asked for what my contract status was, and I was signed to Evolve at the time.
Okay.
And then right when I caught wind that he was even interested, I called him like 30 times. Didn't know what number I was like, yo, dude, I'm in. All I heard was like creative freedom and like, you know, like, all right, AEW, create freedom, do your own thing. I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, just like, I don't know. I don't care what lengths I have to go, like, to get out of this contract. Let's just say I got out of that contract. And there's a lot of, man, it was pretty much me just calling Cody off because I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know the Bucks. I didn't know Tony. I didn't know Kenny. I didn't even know Cody. He was just asking because I guess I started having a string of matches and Evolve with like Walter and whomever, you know, and I was like, oh, what's this guy's deal? So, you know what I mean? So it was I don't know, it was cool.
Well, you know, one of the things that I love about you is that your aesthetic really makes you stand out regardless. And what I mean by that is like your style, your persona, because I feel like what you are in the ring is the guy that I'm talking to right now. And I don't see that a lot with professional wrestling. I feel like it's like, you know, there's the guy and then there's his gimmick. You know what I mean? And with you, it's very, very similar. And there's only been a few that I've come across in my lifetime that the guy who is in your face, outside hanging out, going to a baseball game, whatever it is the same guy that's in the ring. So for you, like building this character, since it is, I think, very close to you, unless I'm way the fuck off, you're talking about like, you know, pushing the envelope, you know, up here. How do you go about, where do you draw your inspiration to bring that next level of Darby Allin out?
Dude, I honestly just watched like skate videos and like punk rock and everything like that. Like I get way more inspiration by those worlds to bring into this world. And that is literally, I think people like Stone Cold said it best, like their personality turned up to 11. That's all I am. You know, I want to act the way I do in the ring 24/7, but I'd probably fucking jail. But that's the thing is it's real cool because at the end of the day, all I ever wanted in life was to be accepted for myself, and the fact that I can do it on this platform is amazing.
You're a skateboarder. You come out riding your skateboard. We've seen over the years, people kind of fall walking out to the ring. Do you have that kind of in the back of your head when you ride your skateboard down? Like, all right, better not screw this up now, or I will forever be known as a GIF or a GIF, depending on where you are. Or, you know, you don't want to be Titus O'Neil at the end of the day.
No, like the biggest thing is just paying the skateboard community with like the proper respect. You know, because at first I was kind of worried that, like, oh, I'm going to write it down and everyone's going to think it's like a, you know, a cash grab or a gimmick or what have you. And I was like, man, the skateboarding was such a big part of my life. I didn't want to disrespect it with like, you know, trying to make it look corny. And then, so I was like, man, I got to really, every time I do anything skateboard related on the show, I got to like kill it and, you know, really push it just like I would years ago before wrestling. But, yeah, man, there's always those thoughts in the back of my head if I was gonna fall on the skateboard. But you know, I played pretty safe when I'm going down the ramp when we used to do. I can't do that at Daly's Place because there's like a little two stair and there's no ramp. Yeah. So I feel like I feel lost without my skateboard. But Sting's pretty cool to replace the skateboard.
That's awesome. So speaking of playing it safe, you said playing it safe, you know, with the skateboard sometimes and everything. Do you ever think, like, you're a young dude, man? Do you ever think like, hey, man, 10 years from now, you know, I should probably evolve my style to be like maybe less risky? Because you take a hell of a bump all the time, like so many bumps. Do you ever think like, man, to have longevity in this, I'm going to need to tone it down a little bit, but still at the same time not cheat the fans?
It's hard with me, man. It's like I'm all in or nothing for the most part, and I always made a commitment to myself that I would rather have a real short career and then just push it hard every day, and then just try to focus on outside projects, you know, when wrestling, when the time's up. But so as of right now, I feel like I'm just gonna keep going and going and going until my wheels fall off. But I don't know, man. I feel like I said, I feel wonderful right now. I've been doing that DDP yoga with Dallas over at his house, and I'm insane about like physical therapy and what, you know, I don't take any drugs. I don't take aspirin or anything like that. I just take a bunch of ice baths and, you know, yoga and just yeah, man.
Self-healing, good, awesome. I love it.
There's one guy that you could get in the ring with right now, you know, out of any promotion. Who do you think's the best fit for you?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, like, my favorite match before coming to AEW was against Walter, just that's like my biggest style is the David versus Goliath. I remember I went to Mexico, and then I was telling the promoter, I'm like, hey man, like this like style of like 6-man, just ding ding ding, like million spots, like that's not gonna best showcase Darby Allin. I need to like sell, and I need to do like some storytelling. And I always felt matches against big guys like Walter was the best thing. So, somebody along those lines, like a Walter, if someone outside of AEW, it'd be like that, definitely to showcase, what makes me me.
So who taught you? I mean, we talk a lot about trainers and whatnot, but you say you like storytelling, put matches together. Who taught you the more cerebral aspect of match putting together?
I don't even know, dude. I don't even know.
Or what do you draw from inspiration? Let's go that route then. Is there like a certain, because like me, I'm an old school WCW guy, NWA, and like if I were to put a match together or come together with a storyline, which sounds like you guys have a lot of freedom in drawing a storyline together, that probably would have been the route I go. What would be your influence then in your own mind?
Well, when I first started, I would always use like this analogy from like for like film and stuff like that. You can either have a movie that's like, for a good example, I don't know if you remember that movie, The Expendables, where it's just like crazy, like crash, like explosion, or because by the time you leave the theater, you're all like, oh, that was cool, but it doesn't like hit you hard a month later where you really stop and like, hits you deep in the heart. And as opposed to like a random movie, like I don't know, like Good Will Hunting or something like that, like something that like is like a real good story where they're like, oh man, like leaves you thinking about it after you get out of the theater, as opposed to being like, oh, that's cool, yeah, move on. So that's how I wanted to view my wrestling, because I remember just being on the independents when the like first match would be like boom 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 boom, and then I'd be like, oh, I just want to like sell and try to tell a story. And then it felt like it was really working, just to separate me early on away from, getting kind of like in the shuffle of everybody. So I don't know, man. I just used like those analogies, just, so
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, no, because I mean, if anybody doesn't know Darby Allin and say you walk through the curtain, right, and they're like, okay, who's this guy? They probably look at you and be like, okay, he's going to be that car crash type guy. You know what I mean? Like bam, 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 just like you said. And you're trying to separate yourself, right? And then you're with Evolve, all right? And it seems like Evolve is, I wouldn't necessarily typecast them as that kind of style. But is that why you didn't like being with Evolve for so long? You're like, hey, man, I want to do my own thing.
I didn't like being involved because I was homeless living in my car.
Oh, they weren't paid. So it comes down to the money thing then, right?
Yeah, it comes down to a lot of things: money, respect, everything.
Okay.
I wasn't getting any of that. So, no, but like on the independence and stuff like that, I always told myself, dude, like once I can get on like a national TV platform, that's all I'm gonna need, just for the weekly storytelling. Because you can't really, it's hard to tell like stories on the independents when no one, like, a lot of people, like companies try, but not a lot of people are gonna like go on YouTube and watch the stories. So they come to the show and be like, I don't know why these two fucks are trying to throw down tonight, but who cares? Like, let's just watch the car crash. But that was like the biggest thing. I was like, man, I just need like weekly TV. That's all I need. That's all I need. And then it feels great to be finally in that platform. But not only that, like when I read the numbers of like my matches being the highest viewed segment on the show, it means the world to me, because I don't take any of that for granted.
Awesome.
Well, I think that's like, it goes back to my point about how you stand out and you are something different. And one of the things that you said earlier in this conversation was about that creative freedom, which I feel like I see a lot more now, but mostly in AEW or an Impact or a Ring of Honor and those things. But as a wrestler and as a performer, which, you guys are artists, I would say. I mean, I hope I'm not, speaking out of turn here, but how important do you think that is to have that creative freedom to express yourself there?
Dude, it's everything. Like, it's literally everything. So I can look back at my body of work and know that I put everything into it, as opposed to just like, you know, collecting a paycheck and being told how to act, because at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, I want people to really like look back and be like, yo, Darby did it his way and everything. So it means everything to me to have that, for sure. I talk about like, oh yeah, I was broke living in a car, I wasn't getting any money. That's just because, I had all these crazy hospital bills. But at the end of the day, like, I knew where that road was going to lead. That was going to lead to 205 Live, and I wasn't going to play that game and just get lost in the shuffle. So, so from there, yeah, man, everything I'm doing, I love right now.
That's another thing that I wanted to, sorry, Dennis, to cut you off, to also put a spotlight on, is like, it's that earning your way to get there. You know what I mean? It's about like, I've been there, you know what I mean? Living on $1 a day or whatever it was, however we were doing it, you know what I mean? Not having a place to go to sleep or whatever it was. But like then because what it sounds like to me, and I just wanted to piggyback this question, but like, how important is it for you to be where you're at now? I mean, it's a lot of guys can take this shit for granted, right? So it's like, how important is it for you, that growth?
Dude, it means everything, not just for me, but for my friends and family. Like, I bought this 14-acre house out in Atlanta, and then I've had all my delinquent friends live downstairs in the wrestling ring. We're trying to renovate their lives. And they're just they're like piggybacking off of like what I was able to accomplish. And then I show them firsthand, like, dude, it's possible if you guys like just really believe in yourselves, because they all started on the same level as I was, dishwashing, like doing, living off of like nothing. So it's cool to have them come down and just show people. Like, that's why it means everything. I don't take any of this for granted.
So what you're saying is I can live in your basement.
Yeah, but you gotta sleep in the wrestling ring. That's where they all sleep.
Bigger than my apartment right now. But let's go back. We've talked a little bit about your run in the indies. Who was your first major match against, or who was your first major, I guess, past, present wrestler that you got in the ring with? And side question here, have you felt like you've made it yet in the industry? And what was the first moment where you had that, all right, I've made it now?
I would say the first like real guy I felt like it was like a big deal. Let me think here, because I want to make it a good one. Honestly, I it sounds like cliche, but I think it's a guy like Ethan Page, because I was a random kid from a seminar, and I got picked to wrestle him and get my ass kicked for 3 minutes in a squash match. But the fact that he like took the time to build a story out of that, and then we've been feuding ever since, it means a lot. That's when I really, like, with him, I felt like, okay, this is a big deal, because it's hard to have people, like, sometimes, like, some people that are like on the big parts of the indies to really like take the time out and cut a promo on some random kid from a seminar. And the fact that he did that, and we built something out of that, meant a lot to me. And so now it's like, in a weird way, I'm like repaying the favor on the AEW scale of just, I'm gonna make this fool, like he kind of did on the independents with me. So, and if someone has to break an elbow to get there, we'll cross that bridge. But I feel like the first time I felt like I really made it was when I could like afford rent for the month with just that was it, because like I moved to Orlando, and I was like, and then I was like barely getting by, and then I was like, yo, screw this, I'm just gonna live in my car. I don't want to hand out, I don't want to ask, yo, can I sleep in your couch for free? I was like, I'll just live in my car. And I moved down to Atlanta and was hiding out in the parking garages. But yeah, once I started getting rent, that was pretty cool.
So because now you're, to me, it seems like you're living your best life. I mean, you accomplished so much, like skateboard world, wrestling world. have you thought about like, hey man, I did so much already in these industries. What industry are you going to take over next?
I have a lot of plans, a lot of plans, a lot of plans. Yeah, I'm constantly working on that day and night. I'm flying out to like Los Angeles, having meetings with a bunch of people, and just, yeah, it's nice. I'm just trying to transcend wrestling and bring everything, like grow and then bring it back into wrestling, kind of like what Rob Dyrdek and Bam Margera did for skateboarding.
Yeah,
with like their show, and then transcending just skate culture, and then having everybody like, oh damn, I'll buy one of their skate. That's what I want to do for AEW. I want people to see what I am doing and then be like, yo, like this guy, if they might have fell out of love with wrestling or what have you, but I want them to be like, yo, like this is different. So that's like my goal, is just to connect with the fans that maybe fell out of love with it or never even gave it a chance. So,
well, pardon my, potential, how would I say, ignorance, but one of the things I see a lot of bands doing, and we've been doing it for years, is we'll put out a skateboard, right, or a skate deck. So, are we going to see, or have we seen, a Darby Allin AEW skateboard deck? Because I mean, as a marketing guy, how if it hasn't happened, why the fuck not?
We've been talking about it for a long time, but I'm trying to connect with this company, a real skate company to collaborate with, and we have a bunch of big time like people interested, but it's just dealing with the contracts. It takes time, but if I if I could do it myself, I'd just sign anywhere, anytime, like, yo, let's do this tomorrow. But unfortunately I can't. So
Do you have any hobbies other than skateboarding and wrestling that we may not know? Maybe you're an undercover Call of Duty guy. What does Darby Allin do when he's not killing himself in two sports?
to be honest, I haven't played a video game since 2009. So like I would say, besides filmmaking, I guess, I really just like, man, I like to be like an entrepreneur and just try to start random businesses and stuff like that. It's fun.
So do you still, and I know I don't do a good job at it anymore, but ever since I got in the wrestling business many, many years ago, it seems like I watch less and less wrestling. Do you find yourself like, obviously you grew up a fan. Do you find yourself watching less wrestling now, or do you watch just as much?
Dude, I watch less only because I don't want to be inspired by anybody else.
Okay.
Like you'll watch a match and you're like, oh yeah, that got a good reaction, I'm gonna copy that.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're like, damn, man, like it might either A, it doesn't work, or B, you start looking like a clone. And like, I don't want to do any of that. So I'm very I don't know, man. I've heard it with like, whether it's like directors or musicians, can't put a name to it, but I've heard like some people do the same thing because they just don't want to be inspired by something else. And it's like in your subconscious, like, oh man, like I really got to hit that or do that spot. And, so I really, dude, to be honest, I probably watch more old school wrestling.
Yeah, that's what I do too. It's kind of like you're taking old stuff like that maybe happened 20, 30 years ago and be like, man, it'd be cool if we put a spin on that storyline. Like, I mean, you could draw your inspiration from there. Like,
yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah, like old, like, like Bret Hart matches and stuff like that. And just all that stuff, like Dean Malenko. Like I always like to go back and watch all the old things. I don't know if it's because currently, like when I don't want to say like everybody's like competing against each other, because that's not what it is, but I just don't want to do something that's like somebody in 2021 is like real picking up on, like real hot, and then you just try to almost copy that trend. And so it's man, yeah, so I don't know.
I mean, we've shared a lot of each other's stories to each other over these last couple months. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I know you're pretty young, but I know that you've experienced a lot, and you've been sort of, like myself, for instance. I'll just talk about myself for a second. Married and divorced twice, been on the street, grew up in product housing, did all the stuff, right, that shapes us to who we are. What is the biggest obstacle do you think that you've ever had to overcome?
Probably believing in myself. It sounds like cornball, but it's true. Like when you hear everybody say you can't for so long and you start believing them, and then once you like say fuck it, I'm doing it my way and I'm okay with failing, that's like the biggest obstacle is just your own brain. It's not like, it's not what anybody else, it's just like your own brain and like, telling yourself. So funny story, I Rob Deerdeck went to this hypnotist and he credits that hypnotist for all his success, everything. So I went to that same dude and yeah, like I was like, yeah, man, fix my ass. So,
It's incredible.
yeah, and then dude, it was weird because when I started doing that, like I literally, life just started getting incredible, and just a bunch of things, like everything really started falling into place, and it was crazy, but like he told me, like Rob Deerdeck's story was like the reason Rob, it took him so long to get over that hump is because his own mind holding him back, because he was just some skinny white kid from Ohio, so he's like, I'm not worthy of me being a millionaire. Or I'm not worthy of being on TV. But once you start breaking those mental blocks down, anything's possible. So, I started doing that, and life's been pretty cool. So
I'm not sure, because I am not hip, as the old kids or the new kids would say, hip in the whole skateboarding world. Old man Farrell here. Is there a lot of crossover between skateboarding and wrestling fans? When you show up to a skateboard park, are people like, hey, wait, you're fucking Darby Allin. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I skate with a lot. Like when I go to parks, there's quite a people that actually like I feel like they're filming me, but I'm not sure. But then right before I leave, they're like, yo, Darby, can I get a picture? I'm like, man, you should have just said what's up in the first 5 seconds, because I love skating with like people that are like, down with it. But yeah, dude, I just know based off of all my like core like skateboard people, they were like really big into it in the Attitude Era. And that's like my goal is like, dude, I gotta try to like, bring those guys back, and just be like, yo, like when I jump on people with a thumbtack skateboard, that shit's real, man. And thumbtacks are ripping them apart. They're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll check it out. So what can you do?
Hey, I want to share a guilty pleasure with you, and then I want to ask you about it. I know that sounds weird, but it'll all make sense. So I don't have cable, but after, we do our TV tapings, I go back to the hotel, I turn on some cable, right? And my guilty pleasure is, it's probably because it's on 24/7, is I'll watch Ridiculousness. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to watch like, maybe a couple minutes of it or whatever. But then I find myself like 4 episodes later and 2 hours in, I'm like, man, why can't I stop watching this? Can you talk about like, your time with Ridiculousness and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I had this like crazy skateboarder friend named Matt Schlager. He was flown down there to be a special guest on the show because he tried to ollie the equivalent of like a 32 stair in the rain and just totally ate shit. And so I was talking to him like, man, I got all this crazy footage. Like, and he's like, yeah, I'll just hook you up with the producer. So I was just sending in all the footage, and they were hitting me up, and it was good. It was real fun to but the most gnarly one that I did was lick the gum wall in Seattle. That, like I licked the whole entire wall and I bit the side off of it. Yeah, I was like cheering it.
Sorry, bro.
I got tested the next day because I was like, people were like, yo, like rats piss on that and like, whatnot. And I was like, oh yeah, like it tasted good though. Much. But to like that type of stuff, like Ridiculousness, that's when it started giving me confidence I was like, all right, cool. Like, because people say like you're a freak or a weirdo, but then when you say, yo, I was on MTV though, like all those people are like, well, that's pretty cool though. I was like, but a week earlier you were saying I was a fucking loser. But you know, it's just those shows are fun, man. They are addicting. Like I don't even have a TV at my house because I'm scared of it. But
That you'll get addicted to it probably. Like
yeah,
when I do,
yeah.
like when I watch Ridiculousness, I'm like, man, no wonder they have it on 24/7. They keep the viewers probably the entire
Dude,
time.
I've noticed that. I looked it up and I was like, man, I just want to see what's on MTV these days. I was like, ridiculousness. I'm like, holy shit, dude. What the? I was like, but I guess it works, you know?
Yeah.
But what can you do? Like, yeah. So, man, I got to get Wi-Fi at least. I don't got nothing in my house.
Well, that show, I mean, when I first got turned on to it was by my buddy Chris Powerhouse, and because it is literally on all the time on that channel, and it's a shame what that channel's become. But that was like almost like a saving grace, because I mean it's very enjoyable, and like you said, Petey, you can just get lost and lost and lost. But I want to kind of take it back to the wrestling thing, and because you were talking about like going to this hypnotist, then having this change. And you're having a perspective change is what it sounds like to me. Like your perspective changed to whatever it was, and then that relationship changed. So with the wrestling, when did you like kind of go, okay, I'm kind of doing this thing over here, I'm kind of doing this thing over here, but I need to make something number one? Did that happen for you, or like how do you feel like you manage all of these different things?
Oh man. So you're talking about like all the outside world things mixed with wrestling. I literally I committed everything to wrestling as much as possible. Like I still skated all the time, but I wouldn't like try to film a video part, or I literally like put everything into this. And that's why, like, I wanted to, when I moved in my car, I moved to Atlanta, and then I was just training in this ring that was like open ring every day. I was like staying there and I was like training, and like I wanted to put 110% to it because I'm so passionate about wrestling and everything. It's like the best of both worlds. Like skateboarding is like really awesome. Filmmaking is really awesome. But like wrestling in a weird way is like a mixture of both of them. It's like physical Broadway. That's how I like to explain it to people that are like, wait, what's the deal with that? I'm like, it's physical Broadway. Like, there's nothing else like it. It's so awesome. So it was like mentally, it was like checking all my boxes that I was like looking for in life. And so I was like, dude, I'm gonna put everything into that, everything. So once I was targeted in on it, like it was pretty like easy to stay on that path, because I don't know, man, I was really just getting super hyped on it, and I felt like I was clicking, like relatively soon, because I was a year in, and that's when like I started actually like getting noticed. So I was like, dude, I can't take this for granted.
We've talked about how long you want to go in the industry. Do you have a game plan? Is there a certain level in your mind that if I can't hit this, I'm out? Or are you open to evolving your style to maybe a less, crash and die style of wrestling into more of a mat technician kind of wrestling to keep you going longer? Or are you set on, if I can't do A, B, and C, I'm done?
I would say if I can't do A, B, and C, I'm done. But I do love technical wrestling. It's like my favorite. When I started training, it was a lot of World of Sport based, stuff. Like that was like my favorite, and I can do it. It's just I love to do it when the time's right, but that there's that mental, high that I search for, and there's no better way than just to, I don't know, man. I've been hanging out with like guys like Travis Pastrana and stuff, and he gets me hyped to just get crazier. So I was like,
So I'm not going to ask this. I'm going to ask this question, but in a different way, because I don't think that, like with the Forbidden Door open, I was going to ask you, like, who do you want to wrestle, right? But you don't strike me as somebody that's like, hey man, I just want to lock horns and wrestle this guy. You strike me as more of like, just with all your storyline and the way you think and everything, you strike me as somebody who would be like, hey man, I'd like to tell a story with this guy and this character and his character or her character. Who would, like, if you could choose any promotion or whatever, looking at an individual's character, who would you want to like have a good feud with? Tell a good story with.
It's a tough one. God, if I had to pick, either somebody like Shingo.
Oh yeah.
Or somebody like, God, man, because I remember back in when I used to wrestle guys like Tim Thatcher.
Yep.
The story would just write himself. He'd be like, you're nothing more than a sideshow act. You're not what professional wrestling is. Him and Walter both. That was the stories, man. Like, you guys, you don't belong here, man. Like, you're just a crash test dummy. You're kind of disgracing wrestling. So somebody that's like such a purist, like just like a straight laced ass kicker, that's who I'd want to get in the ring with and tell a good story with. Just someone that you're kind of like, in a weird way, you're like fighting for their respect while fighting them. I feel like a guy like Shingo, because he's through that whole system, so straight laced and like, I'm going to kick your ass. And I really like that. So.
Awesome.
Having Sting, I want to talk a little bit about this too, because I know Dennis, was mentioned it, but so, and I know that you said it's sort of calmed down. And he's sort of humanized himself to you, right?
Yeah.
But like, okay, so when you guys are chilling, what were you like the most amazed about? Like, oh, Sting likes fucking burritos, or likes the jam, or like, what was the one thing where you're just like, whoa, like that's something I'm into that he's into, and this is fucking Sting. Or
one second. Let me make sure my phone doesn't die. All right, I'm rocking. I would say the number one thing with Sting is just like, we were in the back seat. We went out to Huntington Beach, met up with Johnny Christ of Avenged Sevenfold. We're filming with it, I'm horrible with cars, but he has this really rare car. We were filming with it and stuff, and just like having Sting sit in the back seat, and I offered him, like, hey, you want to sit like shotgun? Because the cameraman was driving, and Sting's like, no, man, I'll just sit in the back seat. And we were just messing around, and like, man, we have a real tight schedule of like how we're supposed to film today. We're gonna paint our faces in the car. And then he was just like, just his reaction to everything was hilarious. So he's just down for whatever. And we're like, I'm just trying to paint my face in the little window. And he's like, dude, I'm not going to paint my face in this car. We're going to get there first. Then I'll paint my face in a mirror. And I was like, all right, dude. He's like, you like to like show up at the airport with your face painted. You like to go out and eat with your face painted. I don't like to do that. So just he's just a funny guy. So.
We've got time for one more question apiece, and I want to touch on double or nothing. Which I'm a huge fan of the Double or Nothing, the AEW stuff. I have to ask you, they're talking about bringing this whole place full of fans. What? And we talked to Dalton Castle the other night with Ring of Honor doing the same thing. What do you have to rein yourself back in a little bit, not to kill yourself, to make it worth the admission price for the fans that are going to come out to see you? Because it feels like a guy like you will break your neck to make sure that this first full packed in show at their version of WrestleMania, you are going to break something. God, I hope you don't, because if you do, you cannot blame it on this podcast. But you strike me as that kind of guy. Do you feel like sometimes you have to rein yourself in, especially with this big show coming up?
Dude, honestly, man, I've been going hard this whole year when we're during the pandemic. It's like, because like I know just I never want to be that guy who like phoned it in just because I know there's no fans. So man, dude, that pay-per-view is gonna mean a lot to me. What I'm willing to do, I don't know yet. Like, we'll cross that bridge. And yeah, man, I don't know. It's gonna be a trip, because it's like we talk about taking things for granted. I remember being, wrestling in front of a full crowd, and you just think it's going to go on forever. And then, I was like, damn, man, it's gonna be a special night. I'm definitely looking forward to what happens, so who knows, dude.
See, I'd be interested to see just with your style, and I don't know. I mean, I know you haven't been in the wrestling business that long. Have you been over? You just mentioned Shingo, so it reminded me. Have you been over to Japan? Did you work overseas there?
No, never.
Oh, do you aspire? Like, did you grow up, or are you a big fan of Japanese wrestling and their style and everything?
Dynamite Kid, man, he's like my favorite. Yeah, I really like that. I just, like I said, it goes back to like, I just like people that are like super serious about it. And for some reason, I would always watch like those like old Japanese matches, and it looked like there was like, these are guys that are living for this and they're dying for this. And then everything was so serious. And I was like, that's what I want to surround myself around. And, so yeah, dude, I would love to go out there, when the time's right.
Awesome.
So.
Well, I guess my last question, I wanted to talk about you, not only being, the face of the company for a while here, but now I hear through, from various places that you guys are moving from TNT now to TBS, which is going to add another million viewers. And I guess my last question to you is, do you feel like there is no ceiling for this company? And it's a two-part question. Do you feel like there's a ceiling for this company? And number two, what's gonna make you stay there?
I don't feel like there's a ceiling to anything. And, as long as like when we start having, collaboration with people that want to, think outside the box, and connect with all these other people, all these other entertainers or, entertainment from around the world, man, there's like no ceiling. And I feel like that's what's like real awesome about AEW. And I feel like, I'm excited about that, the TBS thing, and just seeing what doors it opens and who there like continues to grow and not be complacent and not be, I feel like there shouldn't be any comfort zones, and just constantly surround ourselves with people that want to grow as the company grows. Because if we're not growing as performers and the company's growing, man, like kind of kick rocks, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I really want people to take it super serious, dude, because this changed my life, and I want it to be just as serious to everybody else, man. So yeah, there's no glass ceiling.
May 3rd. What?
Sorry, Dennis. My buddy didn't answer the second part of my question.
I'm sorry.
So Darby, let me take it back to you. What's going to keep you in this company? You know what I mean? What's going to keep you there?
Oh, in AEW?
Yeah.
Oh, creative freedom.
Real quick, and I know that the WWE wouldn't know what the fuck to do with you.
Dude,
they would drop the ball so hard. It would just be like half a hand job and not the better half. It would be like, it would just be the worst thing ever. So what I want to know is, it's like, what's going to keep you here at this company? Which I think is like, I don't know. Because a lot of people want to take the money and run. I get that. I'm not that type of person. I know that you're not that type of person. But what is it truly going to take to keep you there?
Dude, creative freedom. That's all it is. Like, just having a say in, my life. And the fact is, I was given the ball and I like ran with an AEW, and that's all I ever wanted was the ball, so as long as I have that creative freedom, dude, shit, man, that's all I need. Obviously, like, you're living very comfortable in AEW, but there comes a point where like I ain't gonna sell my whole like I ain't gonna sell my dignity for a paycheck, because you can have all the money in the world, man, and it's a lonely place if you're not mentally like there. So yeah, man. So I don't want to, dude, I literally don't want to go anywhere. I'm so like happy there. Who else is gonna let me jump off a ladder with Tony Hawk?
And who else is going to let Snoop Dogg take a dive off the top rope? You know what I mean? It's like, you're in a really good place.
Yeah, man.
AEW's Double or Nothing, May 30th. Make sure you get it on pay-per-view. You can catch this man, Darby Allin, tagging with Sting, going up against Scorpio Sky and one All Ego Ethan Page. Darby, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I know that you've got places to go. We can actually see you in your car trying to go there. So we really appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. For everybody, we will say our goodbyes off the air, but thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you guys on the flip here at the Wrestling Perspective.